Good afternoon and welcome to the largest safari vehicle in the world. It is a still grey, overcast, fairly windy afternoon, which means that hopefully things will come out to brighten up our day after a dreary start to it, and hopefully there'll be lots of things out and about this afternoon. The wind seems to be settling just a little bit, which is good news, and hopefully it will warm up a little bit, which will help with being able to find some of the animals this afternoon. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Wiem. There we go, thumbs up from Vildi as per normal. And so Wiem and I are going to try and see if we can find ourselves Tingana this afternoon. We're going to go and follow up on where Byron had Tingana this morning, and we're going to try and see if he's still around. Now remember, this is a live interactive safari, which means that you can all ask questions and you can interact with us by using hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat should you want to. Now, like I said, the plan is to head kind of southwards. I think Ali and Byron are going to work all around the Djuma area and see what they can find. I'm hoping that there'll be some things out. Maybe Hosanna comes back, maybe the lions. So lots to kind of look forward to. I'm pretty sure we'll find some Ellies along the way as well. But at least, like I say, the wind is settling, and that's always a great thing. When the wind starts to settle, then I'm pretty sure the animals are going to start getting quite active. After a few days of really cold, really blustery weather, when the wind starts to die down a little bit, you'll find that the animals start coming out of all these hiding places, and hopefully we'll start actually doing some movement around, a bit of scent marking maybe, which will kind of help us in being able to try and find them and pick them up on the roads. The good thing is also we haven't had too much rain in the last few days, which means that the roads are starting to get softer, and so tracking then becomes a little easier as well. Good. Now, I mentioned Ali and Byron, but before we get to babyface Byron, who's gotten himself all spiffy for this afternoon, let's send you across to Ali so she can say good afternoon and tell us all what her plans are for today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful safari. My name is Ali, and on camera with me today is Ferg, and we are very happy to take you guys across on this bumble. Now, if you've got any comments or questions, feel free to send them through using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or use the YouTube chat. Now, our plans for the afternoon are really just to go in search of lucky beans so that we can have an overload of leopards for the next few days. That's really our plan for the afternoon. And if you've been on or if you've been watching before, lucky beans are actually a tiny little creeper that grows out in the bush that produces red and black beans. So I think that's going to be my plan for the afternoon, just to go and get some lucky beans. I feel like I might need the lucky beans to find Thandi or Shadow, so that's our plan for the afternoon. What do you say, Ferd? Does that sound good to you? Good, like a lucky plan. Alrighty. Lucky plan it is. Lucky beans, we're coming for you. So we're probably going to have to drive very slowly to try and find a plant amongst all these creepers. But if not, then I'm sure we will have bushwalk at some point where we'll be able to find some lucky beans. So I reckon that's going to be, that's going to be the plan. And if that doesn't work, then I want to try again and go into the area where the lions crossed and where Tamba was last seen a few days ago. See whichever one comes first, either one of the cats or the lucky beans. I'm open to all sorts of suggestions. I don't really mind. So hopefully those things will all come together. You're 6 years old, and of course you're more than welcome to come on the safari ride on our cars. We would love to have you here. Well, this one might be a little bit unsafe because we don't have seat belts, but if you want to come onto a safari, just make sure you tell your parents how much you want to do it, and maybe you'll get to do it for Christmas. I think they'll have a year of preparation, so I'm sorry, parents, I've planted the seed. Perhaps you also need lucky beans then. I can find them for all of us. But yes, we would love to have you here, and having kids in safari can be a wonderful experience. And I always say that I would love to bring the little ones in my family. That would be great. Now, there's another baby that's out on safari, so let's head over to Byron Babyface for the afternoon.
Good afternoon, my name is Byron, and on camera with me is Senzo. How's it, Senzo? So, I don't know what we're going to look for this afternoon. We had a very lucky morning. We got to see quite a few elephant, and then of course Tingana, which was a wonderful surprise. I've spotted something that I just wanted to show you quickly. I know a lot of you enjoy seeing tracks, so I think Sens maybe just let me know. Are these easier over here? Can you see that? There we go. Now these tracks It's a bit difficult, I think, to show you exactly what I'm looking at, but these are hyena tracks. Now, there's actually, let me take this piece of grass here quickly. So the back pad of the hyena has just got 2 lobes, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. And these toes also, they're not quite round, they're almost kidney shaped. So it makes it quite easy to differentiate this from one of the cat tracks like lion or leopard. And even if we just saw half of the track, you would still be able to tell that it's hyena just from the toe. And there's a tick crawling in this track, so obviously ticks around here, so I'm going to get back on the vehicle. But that's a nice hyena track going down the road. It looks like probably this morning sometime, not that fresh, but hyenas walk around a lot and can cover a huge distance. Now, let me jump on here quickly. Now, speaking about tracks, this morning we did get to see Tingana, that beautiful male leopard, and one of our new viewers sent us a question a little bit later after drive. Paul, who's actually from Johannesburg, and Paul wanted to know how we tell the difference between male and female leopard tracks. So, Paul, if we see a leopard track, usually a leopard track is really, really nice and round, so it's quite easy to tell. It's also much smaller than a lion track, obviously. But the difference between male and female is the male has got quite a large track and a very round track, quite round. The toes are all really round, and it's much larger than that of the female. The female's got a smaller track, also is slightly more slender, a little bit more elongated. So you can tell if you see a leopard track, and obviously the more experience you have in the bush, the easier it is to tell. So male is a bit bigger and female a bit smaller, and also a little bit more slender or elongated compared to that round track of a male. And it's nice to have new viewers constantly asking questions and following us on Safari Live. We always encourage people to watch and learn a bit about safaris and being in the bush. Yeah, I think it's really wonderful. Mary, so Tundi and her cub have not been seen recently. I've got a feeling they're hiding somewhere on Torchwood. I think they're in that western sector, purely because the last time we saw them, it was very close to Torchwood, and Tundi was moving backwards and forwards onto that area. So I think, I do think that she's hiding in that, somewhere around there, and unfortunately we can't drive and go and track and look for her. But I'm pretty sure she'll pop up at some point. Oh, it's one of those beautiful flowers I was actually wanting to show all of you a while ago. Let me just jump off quickly, because I haven't seen one around. Senzo, let me jump off. Hold on. And I hope you can get it. Is the pole in the way, Senzo? Is it fine? Perfect. Perfect. Have a look at that. That beautiful red flower. Now that is the lion's eye. That's a lion's eye. I forget the scientific name. I do apologize. Lion's eye, beautiful, beautiful red flower, and often grows along the side of the road, or sometimes in the center of the road. And we do see quite a few of them around, and I do enjoy seeing them there. Beautiful little flowers, and really bright reddish orange. Well, I suppose more of a bright orange coloration. And it is nice to see them. There's still a few flowers around, even though the flowers generally come out at the beginning of the summer. But we are still seeing a few flowers. Alright, now Tristan wanted to head down to Chitwa and see if he has any luck with Tingana this afternoon. So let's go and give him a hand, and hopefully he is able to show you that male leopard.
Well, hopefully we are rushing our way towards Cheetah Cutline, because somebody's just let us know that there was a leopard seen at sort of midday hoisting a kill into a tree on Cheetah Cutline. So I'm interested to know who it is. It's not really far from where we are right now, so we're just trying to get into that direction and see. I have a sneaky suspicion it might just be quarantine, which would be exciting given that Tingana was on this morning. Maybe quarantine, maybe Djuma, who knows, but it's going to be interesting to go and have a little look. So we're just trying to get there as quick as we can and try and see if we can find out who this male leopard is and whether or not he's in the tree. The reason why I want to get there quite quickly is because there's a situation, if it's Djuma, after 1 or 2 cars arrives, he might pop down and disappear. So I want to try and get there before we have that situation and before we have too many cars arriving in that area. But isn't that exciting? Sounds like really good news. It's a hoisted kill. Well, then that's very... The only problem is that apparently it's on the eastern side of Cheetah Cutline, which is inside Torchwood. So for us, it's going to be a little more difficult to be able to see it, but you never know. I mean, hopefully there is a view from Cheetah Cutline. From what I gather, the guys tell me that there is a view on Cheetah Cutline itself, and so we're going to go and try and check it out. Nobody's there at the moment. We just got an update from one of the staff that works at one of the Buffelshoek camps, so hopefully we'll get a little lucky. Safari wild man. Tingana's condition, I didn't see him this morning. It was Byron that saw him, but I believe not bad. I believe he's had a bit of a meal. He's still skinny, but he's coming back a little bit. He's not nearly as skinny as he was. He's also had a fairly good week in that he's found a fair amount of food this week, and so he seems to be doing okay, which is really great news. So we're going to see how this goes and whether or not, you know, Tingana can bounce back. But I think Byron would be better off in terms of giving us an update as to what his condition was and whether or not he was looking good or how he was looking this morning. Like I say, I didn't get to see him, so I'm not 100% sure. Maybe some of you guys can help us out on #Safari and let us know YouTube chat if you're on there exactly how the condition of Tingana was this morning. I believe it wasn't too bad from Byron, but you never know. Right. Now, apparently it's somewhere north, close to the fire break. So, VM and I drove here this morning. We must have just completely missed it. But what I did hear is that the guy that saw it actually saw the leopard going up into the tree. So, maybe that's why we didn't see it. He was still down on the ground. That's what I'm going to tell myself. VM, should we tell ourselves that? So we don't feel bad about the fact that we maybe drove past a male leopard in a tree. He came halfway between drive, exactly, because we were here early in the morning. We did Cheetah Cutline right in the beginning. Good, good, good. I'm excited. Leopard in the afternoon to start drive will be an exciting way to get things going. Hopefully it's not too long a distance visual. It won't be that nice if it's a far visual. Right, now I'm going to carry on towards the fire break, see if I can find this leopard. While I do that, I'm going to send you across to, well, Byron, who's looking so sparkly and fresh this afternoon. I wonder if there's a special someone coming to visit in the next few days.
Tristan. Oh dear. Now I'm just thinking another question that Paul sent through, and like I said, with new viewers, it's always great. They're asking a lot of questions about the bush. He said he went to a game reserve not too long ago, and someone told him that you should always carry pepper spray if you're going on a bushwalk. Paul, I wouldn't suggest that because, to be honest, I don't think it's going to prevent an animal from charging you if you upset it. Now, just remember, when you're on a bushwalk, the whole idea is to view animals in their natural environment without disturbing them and then moving away from them. That's the ideal scenario. However, sometimes animals might get aggravated, or you might bump into an animal. But no, we never carry pepper spray, and I mean, to be honest, if you had to spray pepper spray, you'd probably just get it in your face with the wind blowing. So no, that's not something that I think you should carry with you. Look, when we do guide, when I'm walking guests, I do carry a rifle, but that again is a last resort. I believe that you should be able to guide and walk guests in the bush without a rifle. And when I go tracking and look for animals, like we all do here, when the guides go off track, don't sorry, I think I you there for a second. as I was saying, being respectful and careful in the bush is far more important than carrying a rifle. And I think if you walk without a rifle also, I think you become a lot more aware. But it is important if you've got guests as a last resort, because you don't know how the guests could react in a situation. If they start running, it might provoke the charge even more. So you do have to protect the guests, but the main thing is caution and respect, I think. Okay, let's go across to Ali now and find out how our afternoon's going.
Well, it seems like our plans had to be slightly changed because Tristan is rushing off to that leopard. So we're going to swap roads and we are going to carry on for our lucky beans, and hopefully we will find them. Now, I remember the exact road when we first found them on Djuma, so I am actually on my way there. So fingers crossed that we'll be able to get there and see if there are any lucky beans. If not, then well, fingers crossed we will find any other lucky thing. I am hoping something along those lines will come, and maybe we'll be able to find Tandy, Tamba, Shadow, Not Barbara, Rebel. We're all of them together having a big tea party. And then they can tell us what they've been up to in the last few weeks and why they haven't all been around. Maybe we need to get some inside info of them on our tea party as to what they really think of Hukumuri and if he's here to stay. It would be interesting to get a leopard's perspective and find out what it is that they actually think about it. Bunny, well, quarantine, when we say quarantine, it can be two things. So quarantine is an area of the reserve where we work on Djuma. So it's a nice big open area, very beautiful. And then quarantine is also the name of a male leopard that lives in this area, or is just outside of our traverse at the moment, but that we used to see and is closely related to the majority of the leopards that we see in this area, either because he's an uncle, a brother, or a father. Gets very complicated in the leopard world. Now, right in front of us, we have a family of hornbills, it seems, and they're all doing what hornbills love to do at this time of the year. Besides fight and beg for food, of course. They were actually digging in the elephant dung for undigested seeds and undigested pieces of matter that they can eat. So that tiny one that we're looking at, that's the baby, that's the young one, and he's the one that was making that noise just to get the parents to feed him. And there's something really annoying, I think that's the best word, and I'm choosing it carefully, about the way young birds start begging for food to try and get their parents to feed them. I think they probably just feed them just to keep them quiet. Much like you know, a baby's cry gets on the nerves of a mother. All of our instincts are designed to cater for the needs of the little ones. Now, it seems like there are quite a few birds around here. So we've got the hornbill here, and I can see some more flying around. Oh, what you got there? That's quite big. Is that even... That seems like an insect that you can't really eat. Alrighty. I don't know what you're after. Perhaps it's even a piece of wood. I don't think it's moving by its own ability. Definitely not. I think it's just this little bird that's not that clever in getting it. You funny thing. Yeah, we are going to carry on. Hopefully we'll be able to find any other things. But remember, if you've got any comments or questions, send them through using the hashtag Safari Live, or you can comment on the YouTube chat as well. Now, it seems like there are a few little things running around here, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to see them and perhaps spend some time with them, because they are some of my favorite little predators in the bush. Now, we might have to wait a moment or two to see if they come out, but there's a whole family of mongoose that lives around this area. Just where that termite mound is, that's where we've been seeing their heads pop up and down. Now, it's by no coincidence that the hornbills are here, because they associate very closely with the mongoose. Oh my goodness, I can't think. Robin, you're asking what's the purpose of the termites besides making mounds? Well, they've got a very wide range of ecological purposes that they fulfill. But funny enough, because there are so many of them, and inside of a mound there are so many termites, millions and millions of termites, they are actually considered with elephants, ironically, we've got the smallest and the biggest things as the main factors that shape an entire ecosystem. So inside of the termite mound, like we were saying earlier, there are millions and millions of them, and they come out, normally the ones that we see in this particular region, they come out during the night to feed on the vegetation, or rather not technically feed on the vegetation, but they move the vegetation around, grab them, bite it, and put it in their digestive tract, and then they go back into the mound, go very, very deep underground, and they regurgitate what they've been eating. And they do it in a way of having fungus gardens, because they actually eat the fungus that grows on this regurgitated plant material that they've been eating. So they have a very important role in shaping all of the environment, recycling a lot of the plant material that is all around us, but also when they build their mounds, they recycle all of the soil nutrients that are down at the bottom, because they build the mounds with the soil, and also they use their mouth parts and then their saliva to stick them together. But in order to make the mounds very deep, clearly they've got to go all the way down and then dig. And what do they do with everything that's at the bottom of the ground or at the bottom of the termite mound? Then they start adding it on top. So that way there's a constant recycling of nutrients. So they have a very important niche in terms of how they shape all the plant and soil life around here. But also they are an incredible source of food for a lot of the creatures that live around here. There are certain creatures in South Africa, and I want to see if perhaps I can find them on the book, that feed mainly on termites. Some of them you would expect them to, some of them you wouldn't. But I would say one of the most common ones is, of course, the aardvark. Then we've got also the beautiful pangolins, and then there's a very funny, strange-looking creature called an aardwolf that also feeds on termites. Now, oh, and the bat-eared foxes, because they are just so pretty. Now, let me try. I think I've got a photo of some of the creatures that feed up on termites, and they are quite mostly nocturnal, because termites tend to be a little bit more active during the night and during the day because of the weather conditions. Now, this is an aardwolf. Unfortunately, is not a creature that I've ever seen here, and I don't even know when's the last report of an aardwolf being seen in the greater Kruger area, although back in the day they used to have them. It seems like they prefer areas that are a little bit more arid. Now, almost looks like a hyena, but not quite, and you see it's got stripes on the side. Now, I think the aardvark is not too far off in the book. There's the aardvark, which is another nocturnal creature that is very, very hard to see, very hard to find around here. And I've only seen it once in the Sabi Center. It was such an event. I got so excited I nearly fell off the car. It's very big, a lot bigger than what it seems in the photograph, but it is one of the most interesting looking things. Now, the last one is, of course, the ultimate favorite, the pangolin, which is the holy grail of safari, a creature so impossible and hard to see that whenever you see it, you are allowed to pretty much faint because you're excited. It is this artichoke-like looking thing. This is the one when it hides, and then it looks like that when it's protecting itself. So it just rolls up and curls up in a ball. So those are some of the ones that the creatures feed upon. And then, of course, we have when the rainy season comes and all the future kings and queens of the colonies of termites are coming out, then pretty much anything eats them. Birds, bush babies, what else besides birds and bush babies? Little mammals, of course, the mongoose and everything else. Now, I think that's quite a long talk about such a small animal. So let's head back to Tristan and find out if he found the leopard that was potentially eating something.
Unfortunately, there's absolutely no way we're going to be able to find what we're looking for, because the new update is that leopard is somewhere in those marula trees right down there. You can just see the top of the trees in the distance, and so it's over 500 meters away from where we are. So the original update was no good at all. We got told it was just off the Chitwa line, but it is nowhere near off Chitwa line. There's no ways we can see anything. We've driven up and down here to try and check, and so, well, tantalizingly close, but no cigar, as they say. Unfortunately, that leopard is just too far away. But what I'm doing is just sitting here now, because there is a vehicle that's trying to quickly just check who it is and which leopard it is, and whether or not there's lots of food there, or what the case may be, before I carry on. But it doesn't seem like we're going to see this leopard, unfortunately, which is a bit of a bummer, but that's where it goes. Sometimes it goes your way and they're on your side, and sometimes they're the other side. Just the way that these invisible boundaries work. At least the animals have the space to move around, and they're able to kind of go where they need to go and do their thing. It's now kind of makes sense as to why we've been struggling with leopards a little bit over the last few days, is because I'm pretty sure a lot of them have been on carcasses. We know that this leopard is on a carcass. Shadulu female was found this morning with a big male impala that she managed to bring down, and so I would be very surprised if Tundi wasn't sitting on a carcass somewhere. Maybe this is even Tundi, who knows? It's difficult to say. The guy that saw it was just a staff member at one of the camps. He's not actually a guide, so he's not really sure. Anyway, we're going to carry on. Like I said, I'll try and get an update as to who this is. While we sit here for a little bit, let's send you back across to Ali, who I know was not too far away from where I am, and hopefully she's going to find those lucky beans.
Well, we haven't found the lucky beans yet, but we found this pale morph Wahlberg's eagle that is busy killing something, judging by the movement on the legs, and I'm not sure if it's perhaps a dwarf mongoose or a squirrel. We found it because the squirrel's well alarming and looking in that direction, and well, it's definitely got something in its talons, but we cannot figure out exactly what it is. It's definitely got a tail, so I'm gonna go with small mammal, and judging by the size, that's why I think I'm gonna go with dwarf mongoose, which is a little bit sad because we were just talking about wanting to see the dwarf mongoose. Alright, little Wahlbergs, show us what you've got. Now, it is unfortunate to see something so small die, but again, if this is the Wahlbergs that I'm thinking about, then it's got a chick that it also has to feed. So exactly like the hornbill we're doing with the little one, this particular Wahlbergs will also have a hungry little offspring somewhere that's demanding food. It almost seems like it wants to fly away, and I can almost see where the chick it is. Michelle, you're suggesting that perhaps it's a mouse. It's definitely something along those lines. If it's not a mouse, then a mongoose, then a squirrel, or something along those lines. But I also think it's something, well, definitely long tail, now that we've seen the tail move. Oh, there's a, okay, that's starting to feed on it. Oh, God, I cannot distinguish what it is. It's a little bit too far from us. So I think maybe if we're patient enough, it'll, I don't know, either lift it or fluff it this way so we can find out what its kill is. Now, what an interesting sighting. Although you always feel sorry for the kill. You can only hope that it was a quick and sudden thing and that it's feeling no pain whatsoever. I have no clue what it is. Ferg, any ideas? Yeah. Giorgio, I agree with you in the sense that it looks like it's got a fuzzy tail. I also think it might be... That's why I'm leaning towards either a squirrel or a mongoose, just because of that fuzzy tail. Now, what I think we should try and do... It's just that I don't even know if we would go close enough if we're going to get a better look, because actually the kill is almost on the other side of that particular branch. So, I think we should actually just wait it out for a little bit and see what happens, and then maybe we'll get a better idea. There's also the weather conditions are not helping us that much to try and see. I think if perhaps the cloud was a little bit blue on the other side, the contrast might be a little bit more helpful to try and decipher what it is that this eagle has killed. Very brave you. Now the squirrels, you can still hear them in the distance, and they're definitely very aware that there is an eagle here. Now that's the same noise that they make whenever they see a predator, and that's why sometimes it's confusing when we go off-roading trying to follow up on squirrel alarm calls, because it's very hard to tell, and I'm sure in their own squirrel language they understand each other, but for us humans, with our limited hearing abilities, it's very hard to understand if they're alarming at something like a cat, like a leopard, or perhaps a serval or wildcat, or if they're looking at a winged predator. But at least in this case, the squirrel led us to some action. I can still hear the squirrel in the distance. Sinak, there's a wide variety of rodents that we found around here. Most of them are nocturnal, so that's another reason why I'm leaning towards mongoose or squirrel. We've got different species of mice: field mice, dormice, feld mice, acacia mice, although not that common around this area. There are also striped mice, gerbils. I don't know if there's anything that looks like a rat, to be honest. I don't think that I would want to know. And well, of course, the biggest rodent of them all is a porcupine. Although a porcupine would be too much of an optimistic kill for this Wahlbergs. I reckon the porcupine would win. And they're not likely to meet a porcupine and a Wahlberg's eagle, just because a Wahlberg's, as we know, is a diurnal creature and does most of its hunting during the day, and the porcupines tend to come out of their burrows during the night. So the chances of them actually meeting are very slim. I think, Ferg, let's maybe try and get a little bit closer, see if maybe we can figure out what it is that it's eating without obviously getting too close, because then we might just chasing it away. But the road does go roughly parallel onto where the eagle is. Maybe if we swap around a little bit, we'll have more luck and be able to decipher this mystery and see what it is that this eagle is feasting upon. I don't know. Let's see. What do you think? Maybe here somewhere? I think maybe let's try this particular spot and see whether. Okay, I see more of a tail. I think dwarf mongoose is the answer to this question. Whom got eaten by the Wahlbergs? Just because it does not look as fuzzy as the tail of a squirrel. Shame. Poor mongoose. Oh, sorry. First lady, eagles tend to fly up high and then they spot their prey from above, and normally they're very quick at coming down, and they are armed with very powerful talons, very powerful claws, and normally when they upon impact, half of the time their prey is killed, and if not, then the talons do the trick by just puncturing their prey species. So I'm sure this eagle has been flying around. Ferg and I actually had quite a high amount of Wahlberg's eagles flying around this morning all over. And perhaps it's been flying all this time until he found a suitable opportunity to come down and get this particular. Seems like Tristan has also found a feather friend. So let's head over to him and find out who he's looking at.
I have indeed. So I've got a young bird that is sitting in here. So it's one of the accipiters that we've got, and it's got a yellow eye and yellow legs, which you can see it's still got that streaky head and the grey feathers. And so I think it must be an African goshawk that's just in between a juvenile and an adult, so a sub-adult going into an adult phase by the looks of things. I just want to check one other bird before I make 100% sure it's that. It's just the size of it makes it quite big, so I'm just checking, because there's another one that we get here, the young shikras. They have yellow legs and yellow feet, but it's difficult. This bird is kind of in between. It's got quite heavily barred tail on it as well, which is more the African goshawk. So I would call it an African goshawk already. It's not a little sparrowhawk, too big for a little sparrowhawk, and so African goshawk would be my guess. It seems to be what it is. It's also, the African goshawks, when they're juveniles, they do have a bit of barring and striping on the head, and then they kind of go bigger. But I'm trying to see the seer itself, because the seer should be grey. So ladybird, you say, what a pretty bird. They are beautiful little birds, little kind of raptors that fly in amongst the bushes and the trees, and it can be quite difficult to spot sometimes, but they are incredibly pretty, and with those barring on the chest and on the tail feathers and those bright yellow eyes and legs. Now, is the seer grey? I can't see if the seer is grey or not. So the seer is the part of the beak close to the head. Now turn your head the other way. You had your head the right way just now, but I missed it. Come on, turn back towards us. Other way. Turn your head. Come on. No, not listening at all. Was that seer yellow? Oh, it's going to fly away now either way. It's when they defecate like that is often an indication that they're going to take off. There we go. So off it goes, flying in amongst between everything. Difficult to say. My call would be an African goshawk, but I might be wrong. Like I say, it's in between plumage, which is not ideal. Sinak, you want to know what the difference is between a shikra and an African goshawk. going to show you. I just want to get out of the way of these lovely people that are driving in front of us so that I don't block the route for them and that they can come past nicely. And while I do that, let me find the birds that we were just looking at. Right, so here we go. Here is African goshawk, which is this bird over here. So you can see it starts out as a juvenile there, sub-adult into an adult. And this bird had the grey with the barring on the tail, yellow eye, yellow legs, but it also had the brownish kind of speckled head of a sub-adult. So it's difficult to kind of know. It's kind of could have maybe confused it with is this individual. Is with the bird that we saw is you see that there's not very much barring on the back of that tail once it gets the grey plumage coming through. The juvenile does have a bit of barring on it, but it definitely didn't have that brown plumage on the back, so a difficult bird to know 100% sure. The other one is obviously the little sparrowhawk, but the little sparrowhawk is tiny. It is a very, very small bird. It's only about 23 centimeters, whereas that bird was bigger than that. That bird was well over 30 centimeters. So shikra is about 30 centimeters, and let's check the African goshawk. There we go, 36 to 44. So African goshawk is a much bigger bird of all of them. Little mystery, I don't know, maybe some of you can help us out. My gut feel is African goshawk, but I didn't get to see that sear nicely. But maybe somebody got a screenshot of its head before it flew away with that beak visible, and then we can check it out. Because if the sear is not grey, then it is a shikra probably in all likelihood. The African goshawk keeps that grey sear all the way through its life. It doesn't turn from grey to yellow or yellow to grey. So if it's got a yellow sear, then there's no chance at all. Now, interestingly enough, this male leopard is nowhere to be seen. No one can find it. No one can see any sign of it. So it apparently had a kill, but it's gone. So I don't think we're looking in the right place. I have a funny feeling that maybe, just maybe, we've been given the wrong sort of area to look in, and that's maybe why we've missed it. So what I'm doing is just driving slowly now in a southerly direction just to check all the marulas around here, maybe on the western side, maybe it is on our side, and they just kind of got the sort of directions mixed up a little bit. Although the guy says cruise cut line, which is inside Torchwind, so I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe we'll find it, maybe we won't. It could also be Djuma, and you know, Djuma might have heard a car coming, grabbed his kill straight down and just ran. So you never know. But I don't see anything at all at the moment. Lynn, any animal that's considered good luck? Well, a leopard is always good luck. If you see a leopard, most people in the world will count themselves very lucky to see a leopard. We're fortunate to work in one of the best leopard areas in the entire planet, and that we get to see them more regularly than most. But I know many people that have been to the Kruger National Park 10, 12, 14 times and never seen a leopard. And so a leopard is a good luck animal. It's always good to see leopards. Pangolins, aardvarks, those are all good luck animals as well. But I don't know of any that are, if you see it, it's going to bring you good luck. I don't really know of any of those. My trackers have never told me that's if you see that animal, it means good luck. One animal that apparently means bad luck is an aardvark. So if you see an aardvark, even though I just said that they are good luck to see one, so if you've been lucky to see one, that's what I mean. You have been lucky to be able to find one. But in terms of the actual kind of animal and seeing it, I've been told that seeing an aardvark is not good and it brings bad luck. So I don't know if that's true. It was one of the trackers that I worked with at Lion Sands told me that whole story, that it's bad luck to see an aardvark. I think he was just jealous because my tracker and myself saw an aardvark after I think it was about a week after starting at Lion Sands, and they hadn't seen aardvarks in months or years. And so I think maybe he was just jealous and he was pulling my leg, but I don't really know. I've never heard any of my other trackers talk about it, and I've seen aardvarks with a lot of other guys, and particularly the one tracker who is a very knowledgeable guy, and he never said anything along those lines. So I don't know if it was true or if my leg was just being pulled and yanked a little bit. Anyway, we'll believe it. Should we believe it for now? Maybe we should believe it for now. There's a lot more kind of lucky symbols in plants than there are in animals, funny enough. As you find that a lot of our plants, like the lucky beans, have symbolism in terms of, bringing luck or taking luck away. Not so much with animals, though. Chameleons are also another one where they're a bit feared, but I suppose that's not really got anything to do with luck, does it? No, not really. I'm checking every single marula tree, like keeping my eyes peeled, hoping for that tail just dangling down and those 4 feet kind of over the branch, but alas, no sign of any leopard somewhere here. Right, I'm going to keep checking. I'm going to hope. I think we're probably not going to get this right, but while I live in hope and try my luck, let's send you back across to Ali, find out what she's up to.
I am still looking for the lucky beans. Trying to pay a lot of attention to the greenery that there is all around, but it doesn't seem like we're getting lucky just yet. I do have hope. This is the road on Djuma actually where I've been able to find, well, no, actually I'm lying. I found them twice now that I think of it. There's another road that I might try if our search is not successful in this one. And if it's not, well, then at least we've been looking for them. It's always good to stop and look what's around us. And I mean, they've already led us to a very interesting sighting of hornbills, termites, and Wahlberg's eagle. So not too bad, I would say. Now, I just remember it was on a stump somewhere that this creeper was growing. I'm just going to have to carry on paying a lot of attention to the side of the road, and hopefully we'll be able to find some so that we can share with much the rest of the world. To say earlier, there are tiny little things about this big. Alright, I think we're searching, but while I might head back to Tristan and change in here.
Well, it seems as though both my counterparts are being attacked currently and are not having much luck when it comes to the technical side of things, but that's okay. You're back with us and we are still slowly cruising along, searching and scouring and watching and trying to look at any marula that could possibly house a leopard, even those that probably couldn't, but we're going to check them anyway just to make sure. But we've gone quite far south now of where this reported sighting was, and there's no real sign of anything here, to be honest. And I mean the chances of us spotting it, if it's as far in as the guys are saying, then, well, I don't think we're going to get any luck unless this leopard is moving. But I have a sneaky suspicion that maybe it's Djuma and he's heard vehicles coming and he's just kind of grabbed his kill down a tree and then off into the thickets, and maybe that's why he's not been found. It's interesting though, because the guy that saw him is a guy that, I mean, he's not somebody that is that unproficient when it comes to, if that's even a word. Is that a word? I don't even know. In terms of the bush, he's driven, some of the landowners around before. VM, is this a leopard track that I see here for a female leopard? I wonder. Let's have a little look quickly. Just want to check. You see that track over there, VM? It looks very leopardy to me, but I want to double check it because that's the track I'm talking about. It looks like just a big mess in the sand, to be honest, but I want to double check, because if this is Little Tundi's tracks, I'm probably going to be as over the moon as one could ever be, because we've been scouring for her. Now, it looks very leopardy, I will not lie to you. It looks like it's got toes in the front, but I just want to double check. So you would see there would be toes here and then a back pad over there, but because of how soft the sand is, if you see when I put my fingers down, you see how big these kind of markings get. So I just want to double check that it's not maybe something like a hyena that could be there. It's so faint with all this wind that it's very difficult, and I don't see another track coming off from there or on the other side. So hesitant to say that this is a leopard track. It's so kind of blown out that it can't actually make any definition in the toes or on the back pads. It just has the right kind of roundness to it and looks very leopardy, but I might be wrong. What do you think, Viam? Not sure. Viam's also not sure. Maybe what we should do is just backtrack onto Central's not far behind me, and then just go on to Drakensberg quickly and just check if anything comes out on that side. But I don't see anything this side either. It's definitely very windswept, which could be from last night. I might have missed these this morning. Let's go and have a look. Blue 24, we see hyenas fairly regularly. It's funny, in the afternoons not as much as we do in the mornings, which is quite strange. They tend to be nocturnal animals, and so they move a lot during the night, and we often bump into them in the mornings. And it's been a little bit of a lean stretch when it comes to our hyenas, because at the moment we don't have any active dens that we know about. So we haven't been able to find any active dens recently. It seems as though all the active dens have that we know of are not being utilized, but we know there are hyenas that are lactating. So we're trying to find the den sites, and if we find the den sites, then we see them daily. But at the moment, no den site, which is making it a little tough in order to find them. So we're trying really hard and seeing if we can maybe try and pick up where these hyenas are moving around. But theoretically, yes, we see them pretty much most days. You definitely hear them every single night. So there are lots of them around here. They just can be far wide-ranging species, and sometimes we just don't bump into them. So it depends. I mean, some days we go 4 or 5 days without seeing hyenas, and then all of a sudden we'll go through a patch we'll see hyenas every single day for months on end. So if we can find the den site, then a lot. If we don't find the den site, then a little bit more seldom than that. So I think the last hyenas we saw was maybe yesterday morning or this morning, I don't know. Clifford, I agree with you. Hyenas are awesome. They're highly intelligent animals, and they really are fun to watch. I really do enjoy spending time with hyenas. I find them fascinating creatures. They are one of the more intelligent animals that we've got out here. Highly kind of intelligent, able to problem solve, and watching them go about their business and how they'll try and kind of chase down certain animals, how they'll use other animals in their environment in order to scavenge, how they manipulate lion and leopard and even wild dogs to a degree to try and allow others in, is absolutely fascinating to watch. And that, coupled with the fact that they are incredibly social and incredibly tightly knit as a clan, and so they really look after themselves and they really look after one another and make sure that everybody is in good shape and is protected. And also, if you've never seen a baby hyena, well, a baby hyena's got to be one of the cutest things that we have out here. They look like little dogs, even though we refer to them as cubs. They look just like little dogs, and they're fluffy and they're black and they're like little teddy bears that run around all over the place. They're super cute and lots of personality. And the other thing about hyenas is they're generally very curious, so they interact a lot with you as a safari kind of person. They'll come in, they'll sniff around, and if you're at the dens, then they're all around the car and they're sniffing and they're checking, and they're just trying to work out what's going on around them. So thoroughly entertaining species to spend time with. I like them. I think they're quite fun, and they're very complicated species as well. A lot of interesting things that really only applies in the hyena world. You don't see it in any of the other animals, which is quite cool. So very cool animal, and I wish we could find the den, because den sites are the best things for hyenas. If you've ever have anybody that has ill feelings towards hyenas, you need to take them to a den site, and I can pretty much guarantee that the softer side of hyenas will sort them out. Now, is that impala looking? No, there's an impala on the right hand side that is fairly relaxed. I thought for a second it was staring into the bush and just kind of having a look, but it's immediately turned towards us when I stopped, and therefore means that it's not actually watching anything really. This is an area where you can see it's quite dense, so impalas have to be quite careful. You can see the length of the grass has gotten quite long, and so it's a great place for a number of predators to hide. You can also see a lot of clouds about still this afternoon, and hopefully they'll start to spread and start to go away, because it would be nice to see the sun again at some point. I'm a very big fan of sun and heat rather than cold and clouds. Anyway, our impala's drifting off, so we'll carry on and see if maybe there's something else about. There's a few oxpeckers flying around, but everybody looks quite relaxed, so I'm not sure if that track is any good or if it's fresh. It just kind of is so windswept. It's just a bowl of something that stood there, so difficult to make out really if it's a leopard or not. I have a sneaky suspicion it's a hyena track that's just been so windswept that it looks a little kind of leopardy. Beck, you're kind of onto something with Djuma as to whether or not he's that skittish that he had bought a territorial dispute when a vehicle arrived. Well, I know he was seen recently with Hukumuri in a kind of standoff. Whether or not that was a territorial dispute it must have been. I mean, it's two male leopards that are both equally big and fully grown and both looking for territory. So, I don't think the vehicles played too much of a part there, because from what I understood is that the two leopards were interacted quite long after the vehicles arrived. So it wasn't immediately the vehicles got there that he bolted off. So I think that he's kind of, if there's something that's preoccupying him, so another male leopard or even a kill, apparently sometimes he's okay with one vehicle, and he'll be all right watching what's going on. I mean, I wasn't in the sighting. I've still yet to even see Djuma, and all the time I've been here, I mean, I've looked and I've tried to find him, but I've never seen him, so I don't actually know what his demeanor is. And I'm just going on what others are telling me. So people like Brent, who spent some time with Djuma, Wiem, who's seen Djuma a few times, going on what their sort of experience is with him. I have absolutely no experience with that leopard, and so making a statement as to whether or not that is the case is really kind of just making up stuff and almost lying to you. I have absolutely no idea if it is like that or not, but I don't think so. I think he would probably find in a situation where he's fighting with a male, that's far more important, because it's a situation that could be life or death, and than it is to try and kind of run away from a vehicle and turn and maybe get himself into trouble. Good. We're going to carry on, and we're going to see, maybe we can find a spotted cat somewhere here. It seems like there's no tracks coming out this side, so I don't think those tracks were fresh. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Ali, who's hopefully shaken off her technical issues and is going to be back out and ready to go shortly.
We are back out and ready to go. Didn't get any luck with our lucky beans, but fear not, we still have about 2 hours and 15 minutes to carry on looking for them. So the day is still young, and hopefully we'll get lucky with them. Now, I want to perhaps go and check around Buffelshoek Dam, see if there's anything in there. Would be lovely if there were any creatures down there. I would be quite happy. Seems like we've had some elephants here. Look at all these branches. They always leave a mess behind, the elephants. Look at this. This is so funny. Let's just go back here onto this tree. Now, sorry, bird. Now you can see sometimes elephants are quite lazy, and just the way they do things, and hopefully there won't be any elephant hearing me say these ill things about them. But a lot of the times, and imagine I am a lot taller than what I normally am, they come here and they use their tusks and they start opening this because they want to get to the nice moisty part underneath. But sometimes, and I've also seen even some of the older ones being quite lazy, they just go and bite directly the branch of the tree just because it saves them a little bit of time, so they don't have to use their tusk and they can just start munching on it. I feel like this is gonna fall on me. And then start eating them. So whenever you find a mess like this, always elephants. I don't think they could play murder mystery night too well. I reckon they would be the first ones to be found out. Because if everyone managed to find out that I was a murderer the time that we played that game, I reckon everyone will be able to know that it was an elephant, the one that was here making that mess. Shame. They're such well-behaved creatures when they want, but probably the older version of a messy brother. Now, let's see. Maybe if we go to Buffelshoek Dam, maybe we'll be able to see something there. And if there was indeed a report of a spotted cat anywhere around here and it had a kill, it could be that they would go that way for water. That's probably one of the closest water holes around. Now, I'm also keeping an eye out just in case it's decided to move from wherever it is that they were licking. But I know the combination of Tristan and VM is normally a leopard scanning car, so it's almost like they go brrr, brrr, and if there are no spots, then it's almost like they pick up a system directly, and when there's something that's out of place, their brains probably just go boop, 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 and then they know there's a leopard in there. Now, back to our lucky beans and our Buffelshoek Dam. I think maybe we'll go check up on how the hippos are doing, see if still a trio of hippo, or if now they've kicked some of them out and it's less than 3. Perhaps maybe it's back to 1, but we'll see when we get there. We're still on our way, so it'll be lovely to be able to see them. I'm just hoping that I'm not going to miss the turn, because I probably will. Now, what else do we have around here? I've seen all the big 5 in one day on more than one occasion. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen every now and again. And I think one of my favorite drives, however, was one a very long time ago, sometime in the winter time, when during a Safari Live show, we actually had the Magnificent 7 in one morning. So we had all the big 5, lion, leopard, rhino, buffalo, and I'm missing one. Did I say lion? Well, those ones, and then cheetah and wild dogs. And it was a very, very cool morning, and it was very exciting to be part of that whole drive, just because it never happened before. So I was very happy. But yes, we also get to see the big 5 every now and again. Cannot remember now the last time that I saw all of the big 5, but wasn't I with you when we saw 4? Maybe, I'm not sure. So it does happen every now and again that we get lucky, and all of them are there, and it's wonderful. But I think it's more luck than anything. And if you do go to a lodge, sometimes you do get lucky, because obviously all the guides are in constant radio contact with somebody else. So you can try and push it and get all big 5. But sometimes most of the time I don't agree with the rushing around from one place to the next, because you don't really get to experience what the bush is all about. And I feel like it's almost a distance to the creatures. If you see 15 leopards on one drive, and if it's your first time, then sometimes, unless you've got a very set of photographic opportunities that you have in mind, and that's exactly what you want to do, if you just want to come to learn about the bush and that kind of thing, then you probably just miss out, and you're doing the animals a disservice, because you don't get to appreciate how rare a certain sighting can be if you see about 10,000 of them on the same day. Now I'm going to fall. This is going to hurt. Buffelshoek Dam is not too far. We're going to head down there and just find out who's been down there and what's been happening. But while we get there, let's head to Tristan and find out where he's going. Ooh, lots of elephants.
Well, at the moment I'm just slowly meandering my way down to Chitwa. I'm going to get there eventually, but I'm taking it very slow on my way there, just checking every little nook and cranny that we can, in the hope that maybe we find something on the way there. Anything will do, actually. I don't even mind if it's not a leopard at this stage. I would take anything and try and see any animal, but there's really kind of no signs of anything. I haven't even seen any fresh elephant tracks, which is very strange given the amount of elephants we've been seeing over the past few weeks. So it's kind of a little quiet on the eastern side, but that's okay. We'll find something eventually. Patience comes to those, well, good things come to those who show patience. That's what I wanted to say. Blue 24, you're asking have we warmed up since this morning. Well, Blue 24, we have indeed, and the best part about now is that we were better prepared than we were this morning, because I woke up this morning, and as is my ditzy brain that I have, completely forgot that we had a cold wind blowing in last night and went out in shorts. So it was a little nippy this morning and a little kind of cold, but this afternoon far better prepared. Got jersey on, we've got long pants on, socks, so everything actually feels a lot better. And so all of us, I think, we're caught out a little bit. Byron's got his long pants on, Ali's got her long pants on, I've got long pants on, which is par for the course, really. I think when it's cold we all kind of don them, and so feeling a lot better about life. Also, that wind is slowly but surely dying. In fact, it's much better already since we've started this afternoon. You can see it's just a small breeze now. It's not very strong at all, which is good news, and the trees are not being blown like they were yesterday, and the temperature is now increasing a little bit, which is good. So hopefully it will be nice and warm for the duration of this afternoon, and that will be good. We've got jackets as well in case it does start to cool down a little bit. But it's good news if the wind stops. It's hopefully going to mean a lot of things moving and a lot of different stuff around, which will be good. Right. Right, now I believe Ali was going towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is a large dam, but she's managed to find something small on her way there.
Well, we have, and it seems like we have found a squirrel nest. Now, that particular hole, there's a squirrel that's been going in and out, and then you can see the fluffy tail of one at the back that's pretending not to be here. But it's been going in and out to take, it seems almost nesting material, because we've seen it gone in, and actually Ferg is the one that spotted it. It's gone in carrying leaves and all sorts of little things. So I wonder if perhaps they're not getting ready to have new baby squirrels. That would be beautiful. Sometimes it could also be that not only they're putting inside little things, but they're stashing food away because they also eat leaves and different plant material. So maybe this is really their little stash house and where they're concentrating all the food for the winter time. It has been a morning full of squirrels. Now, if you guys would be so kind, we would love it for you to show us where the leopard is hiding. Now, they've taken to live in an old leadwood tree, which is one of my most favorite trees out here in the bush. It takes them a very long time to grow, and and once they die, it also takes them a very long time to almost disintegrate and fall back to the ground, because they are of a wood so dense that it's virtually very complicated for all sorts of insects to actually try and penetrate. And so only over a long period of time would the wood start rotting enough for little insects, wood-boring insects and other creatures to come in and then start being able to make holes inside. Now, it seems like the squirrels have found a very good place to live and a very good place to stash all their food. Hello, pretty squirrels. Now, this one's gone at the back, but I don't know if you can see Ferg on the other branch just to the right. There's the one that's hiding, and then there's the one, that one there. And I think it's also been hiding some food in there, in that little hole just behind it, although it seems like it's being attacked by some sort of fleas or ticks, probably fleas. And you can see not only impala and all of the bigger creatures suffer from them. Yep, going down. All right. Now, I think this is the one that we initially saw carrying all the plant material back to the tree or to the holes. I'm gonna get my head. Noriko, it's just general decay what produces this, the holes in this tree. The bark of the tree is very beautiful per se, but the holes in the trees, it's either as the tree starts rotting, it's been dead for a little while, so the rain, the wind, the sun, everything just helps break it down a little. And once the wood is not as hard, then maybe you'll see that smaller creatures like wood-boring beetles will start making their holes in there. Perhaps maybe a woodpecker and all sorts of different creatures are going to slowly but surely start making their way into the inner layers of the trunk of the tree. And as they do that, then obviously they start opening the way for other creatures, and the more it gets used, well, the more this openings start developing and start allowing bigger creatures to come in and make their homes in them. So it's a combination of factors. It's between a little bit of rotting of the tree with the opportunity of other animals where they find suitable homes to either lay their eggs or perhaps even to inhabit and live in there for a little while. Now, it seems like our squirrels have gone shy and they don't want to put any more leaves in there. We were hoping that perhaps we were going to have the peeping face of one of them coming out. But saying that is not our luck, we are going to carry on then on our way to Buffelshoek Dam. Maybe we'll be able to find something there, another squirrel, perhaps a leopard, perhaps just something else. 3 hippos, that would also be nice. Bye, squirrels. It is a very beautiful leadwood tree, that one. Well, seems like some acacias are flowering, which is very late for the acacias to be flowering at this time of the year. Normally, they're amongst the first ones to start making the little flowers. Perhaps we haven't had enough rainfall all the way up here. Oh my goodness. It's a very bumpy ride here. Seems like Tristan has reached a very large body of water, so let's head over to him and find out where he's parked.
Well, I've reached not a large body of water. I was just at Twin Dams quickly, going over the dam wall, but there's absolutely nothing around there. There's not even any birds on the edge of the water, which is not ideal. So I want to just quickly check the small pans on the southern side, because these are often far more productive, funnily enough, than the big dam itself. Because of the vegetation all around it, you often have a lot of animals that kind of sit in these sections, so it's always good just to check for Hosanna in these long grass areas. He likes it here, or he used to like it here. He hasn't spent much time here recently, but he used to like it in this area. And then there's also a situation where with all this grass on the left hand side with water that's flooding it, it's a good place for kind of rare birds. So this is a place where you often just need to stop and look around. Sometimes you get little snipes coming out, or you'll get, something like a crake that will come out of long grass like this. Really good place to check around. And so I like stopping at this little dam wall, the second dam wall, and just listening and looking and taking it in. It's a beautiful spot, and the grasses are so nice and green. When there's sun out, this is one of the prettiest areas because these grasses go so vivid. Here you can see the foam-nest tree frogs that have been busy on this tree. It's always a tree that gets absolutely covered with foam-nest tree frogs. It's the perfect tree for them. It's right above the water, and so they can build perfectly, and all the tadpoles drop into this nice sheltered water with lots of grasses, and so really good place to build a nest. Whichever foam nest tree frogs built there are clever foam nest tree frogs. They have done very well and probably have a much stronger chance of having little ones survive as opposed to some of the other ones that we've seen. But alas, no birds at this stage. I didn't see anything kind of moving around, so we're going to carry on. This was a good area last year for little white-faced whistling duck chicks. They had their chicks in this area, and they were spending a lot of time here. I remember Hosanna and Shungile going after them at one point, but now it seems as though few and far between the white-faced whistling ducks, just at Chitwa Dam for now. Good, let's carry on, see what else is about. The reason why I came and checked Twin Dams quickly was because of Ali seeing Hosanna last night crossing into Little Gowrie from Weaver's Nest. He sometimes from there will come this way and spend a bit of time close to this area, so I thought maybe, just maybe, he might be lurking, but he's not here. For some reason, he just has kind of shied away from Twin Dams completely over the last few months. He was a regular feature there over the winter, and then there was a bit of kind of bush clearing, brush packing work that was done on the dam wall, and since then we've seen very little of Hosanna. So I wonder if maybe just that disturbance, he just got a little bit nervous of coming here day in day out, and because it's so wet now he can find lots of water everywhere else, and maybe when it dries up again we'll start to see him coming back towards Twin Dams and actually spending some time in that area. But we're going to carry on from one dam to another. We're going to start heading towards Chitwa. No sign of Tingana from what I can pick up from anybody. There's no updates on Tingana at all, so I'm not sure where he is. We'll try and see if we can find him. He apparently was just south of the lodge, but moving south, so probably has gone onto a net, knowing our luck at the moment. We're having those kind of days, VM and I, where things are just not going well at all. And we're struggling to find any kind of fresh signs. We're battling a little bit with trying to find the animal that we're after, but it goes that way sometimes. Got to just keep persevering. That's what they always say. The more you persevere, the more likely you're going to be able to find something, and the more time you're out here, the better it gets. I wonder if Byron's having really feel like being out. He is not impressed. Why are you not impressed, Byron? What's wrong? Are you not impressed that I caught you out without you knowing? Ah, woodpecker. That's very cool. So there's a woodpecker sitting on the tree that's also in that area. Which woodpecker are you? No, looks like a Bennett's woodpecker, I think. I just want to double check quickly. And apparently Byron's not impressed because he wants to see a leopard. Byron, patience. And if you want to see a leopard, you're welcome to get into a car and come driving out here and help us. There's never enough eyes out here, so if you feel like you could contribute in some way, we're waiting, and we'd love to have you out here with us. Now, I was saying it could be a Bennett's woodpecker. Now, you get a few different species of woodpecker here. We get golden-tailed, Bennett's, and then we get bearded and cardinal. Now, this woodpecker is a medium-sized woodpecker. It's not the little cardinal, and it's not the big bearded. And if you have a look at it, it's got very, very bright red cap, and then a bright red moustache, and the eyes are they red as well? They could be. It's difficult to see in this light. The light's not great. But if they have the reddish coloured eyes, then it is the Bennett's woodpecker. The golden tail does also have a red moustache, but not quite as pronounced as that, and not quite as thick and sort of red as what we're seeing on that guy. So Bennett's woodpecker is what I would go for. Cardinal and, like I say, bearded don't have the red moustache. So very cool to see. They're an epic little bird. You can see it's busy pecking away. Now, funny enough, these Bennets don't actually feed that much off the trees like this. It's very seldom actually that they peck at wood to find little grubs and things like that. They actually feed a lot on the ground instead. Puma, you say it looks very similar. Okay, so I'm glad that it looks similar to them. I wonder what the difference is. I'll have to look at it and Google it and see what is the difference between a red-bellied and this fella. But definitely not called a red-bellied. Even in old names, it's always Bennett's woodpecker. So it's just obviously same family but different species. But all puffed up because of the cold, and an epic sighting. I wonder if it wasn't down on the ground feeding on the termites like the hornbills were, and then when the hornbills came down, chased it up into the tree, and that's why it's knocking about there. They're not really birds that feed, like I say, a lot in the trees. They're normally on the ground. You see them pottering about trying to find food. Good, there's a car that's waiting for us to get out the way, so I'm going to try and just move quickly and try and get out of their way. But what a cool sighting that was of a Bennett's woodpecker. It's been a while since I've had Bennett's on camera. Very, very cool to see. Now let's try and just pull up on the left here to let this car go. This is our same friend from the elephant sighting this morning that was driving up and down, going back to the gate by the looks of things. It's the only problem with being on this road is that there's often lots and lots of vehicles up and down. Right, no sign of Tundi there, no. So no sign of Tundi anywhere in that section. I was just always have a double check. You know, when you've seen a leopard once in somewhere before, you'll kind of often double check there again, even though it's probably almost 0% chance it'll be in the exact same spot. It's always worth checking. Now, while I carry on towards Chitwa Dam, see what I can find around there, let's send you back across to Ali, who I'm sure has left Buffelshoek Dam, and I wonder where she's going to be heading next.
Well, we have indeed left Buffelshoek Dam. There were just the 3 hippos and really not much else happening in there. It seems like everything was pretty settled. But I would like to, and I don't know if this is, can you get those flowers they're referring? Or is the pole in your way? Right in the middle. Oh, just made it. All right. Now, I want to get a little bit closer to these flowers just to show you why I like them. Now, these beautiful flowers over here are the flowers of an acacia. Now, which acacia? This looks like a river thorn or acacia or vaccalia. I think that's the proper name now that we're not, or the African acacias are no longer acacias. Now, there are a few flies in there that are busy, it seems like, feeding, pollinating, and doing all of their fly business. But it's very typical for acacias to have this type of very fluffy, opened up flower type of thing. And I find it interesting because in this particular area have I seen this flower still blooming for these acacias, because in general it should have almost been done, or they shouldn't be blooming at this time of the year anymore. So it's quite late for them, I suppose. Perhaps it's a combination of things. Perhaps we've only I sat on something. Perhaps it's a combination of rainfall and soil. I don't know. It would be interesting to find out, because I've only seen them in this particular spot of the reserve with their flowers, which is pretty much the eastern corner. Talking about trees and such things that lay on trees, it seems like Tristan has got a feathery friend. Let's head over and see who it is.
Well, we've got a whole bunch of birds all sitting in a dead tree. It seems as though it's been a good birding afternoon so far, which is great news. So on the top is a white-backed vulture that is sitting all hunched together and kind of got its neck in and just staying nice and warm by keeping that neck insulated in that collar of feathers and looking very vulture-like against a grey sky. Ominous-looking bird, isn't it, when it kind of sits there? And especially when you get these cold, kind of overcast days, it just suits the mood of a vulture completely. But below that is a African harrier hawk. Now, I know a lot of you have this as one of your favorite birds, and they are very cool. And lately we've just been having the most insane sightings of these guys. We've had them pulling little squirrels out of holes. I know Byron had it on a scorpion kill the other day, which was very cool, and so we've been seeing a lot of them, which is wonderful. It's a really cool bird to watch, and the way that they go hunting always makes for an epic thing to kind of witness. So you'll see them flying from tree to tree using those long legs to stick into holes, and then they pull out nesting material, and either they'll get squirrels or birds or lizards and sometimes even scorpions, as we found out the other day. So a really nice bird to find, and it's a super easy bird to identify. It's either got those bright yellow face or a bright red face, grey body that's got that kind of striping on the chest area, and then a barred tail. And those legs are unmistakable. They've got long legs in relation to the size of their body that they utilize for hunting. And you see there's a little crested barbet. What are you doing there, crested barbet? You must be careful. Although it's no chance that African harrier hawk, because that crested barbet has a situation where hasn't have to worry about the African harrier hawk catching it by surprise, so the crested barbet will easily be able to fly away. Now what you can notice with this bird is it almost looks like the facial patch is changing color while we're sitting here. So it was very bright red when we first arrived. It seems as though it's starting to lighten a little bit and maybe go back towards yellow. They can control the flush of color on their face. It's almost an instant response from going red back to yellow, and that red is an indication either when they're going into breeding and they want to start breeding, or sometimes even excitement. And so maybe with the vulture close by or that bird being close by, that's what's caused it to flush a little bit red like that. But such a cool little bird. I really enjoy these guys, and we see them, like I say, a lot lately, which is very cool. But what a nice tree for birding. Very cool. The 3 birds in one shot. There we go. It's not every day that you get 3 species bouncing around in the same place, which is very cool. James, you say, speaking of birds, have I ever seen a ruff in the Sabi Sands? Unfortunately not. No, I haven't. It's not to say that any of these birds can never appear here. As we've seen in South Africa over the last 2 years, that there's been this major shift in bird movements, and there's a lot of different birds that are arriving here that theoretically shouldn't occur here, but yet they're being seen. The Egyptian vulture is one, pectoral sandpipers that are being seen, white-throated bee-eaters. So, there's a lot of different birds that are kind of coming in and out all the time, and weather like we've just had now is great for birding. We're going to hopefully find a special bird somewhere. When you get really gusty conditions like we've had, that blows birds completely off course, and they end up in the most random places. So maybe we'll get lucky with a super rare bird in the next few days. It would be really nice to see that. And Chitwa Dam's a great place to look for rare birds, because a lot of the rare birds that you get are often waders or coastal birds that get blown in by these big winds, and they, instead of ending up on the Mozambican coastline, they get shifted right into the Kruger Park system, and that's when you get these kind of rarities coming in. So conditions like we've just had are actually super good for birding, and hopefully one day a ruff will appear in the Sabi Sands. I've, like I say, personally never seen one. It's not to say that maybe somewhere along the line in the rich history that is the Sabi Sands that one hasn't been seen. Now I'm going to try and stop here closer to this African harrier hawk, because I think its facial patch has changed completely now. It looks like it might have gone more into a yellow color. It's also being very obliging sitting right next to the road where we can actually see it. Is it still quite red? No, it is still quite red. It hasn't quite gone yellow yet, although yes, it is yellow. It's much more yellow than it was when we first got here by the looks of things. So very cool bird, and now that we're closer we can actually see the detail in those long legs and that face and that very sharp beak. How cool is that? That's really good views of an African harrier hawk, and a very relaxed individual as well. Epic. So cool to see these birds. I'm surprised that it's not flown away. They generally don't sit for very long, so for us to actually see one for as long as we are now is a very special thing to see. And I wonder if it's maybe not doing what Byron saw the other day, where it was hunting for scorpions in dead trees, because these dead trees house a lot of scorpions. You'll find a lot of the Pisticanthus asper, which is a type of scorpion that hides out in bark. Now, asper in its scientific name refers to trees, and it's basically a scorpion that lives a lot in tree areas. And so I wonder if it's not looking for Pisticanthus asper through all of this bark. You'll find that they'll use those talons and kind of just break the bark off, and then the scorpions are often sitting in underneath that bark or on a little hole somewhere on the tree, and maybe that's what it was doing. It was hunting little scorpions along this tree. And the vulture, well, I think the vulture's just sitting there because of the poor weather conditions, but very cool. So Wisteria Whisper, you're asking why there's so many dead trees. Well, it's a combination of a lot of things. There's some trees that have been destroyed by elephants, which have been ring-barked. So basically the tusk has been stuck into the bark and bark has been pulled all the way around. Once the bark has been pulled all the way around, it breaks the connective tissue layer from the roots to the leaves, and the plant can no longer photosynthesize, and it then dies from that. So a lot of the trees are dead from that. Other trees have just lived out their life and have died, and because they're such hard woods, so things like leadwood, some of your bush willow species, even some of your old knobthorns, being very, very hard trees, they often, when they die, they still stay standing because the wood still needs to rot away, and the tree doesn't just die and fall over. Some of those leadwoods, they reckon, can stay standing for 200-300 years after it's dead and still be upright, and has to then be broken down slowly by obviously water and rain and boring insects and all kinds of other things that will slowly but surely degrade that wood. But it takes a very long time for that wood to go down. But if you look in the context of what we see out here, yes, there's a lot of dead trees, but look at how many trees around them are alive. So even in this situation, you've got one dead tree, but try and spot another dead tree all the way through there. There's only one in the background. Otherwise, there's probably another 200 dead trees in amongst them. So there's so many trees here that even though there are a lot of dead trees, there's more alive ones than there are dead, and those are just the scars of previous plants that have already grown. I'm blowing on the mind with all the wind that's been around, and so we'll have to carry on. Too much talking, I think. Good. Onward to Chitwa Dam. We'll eventually get there. We keep getting stuck with all these birds, which is nothing wrong. A bit of birding is always good. I like a bit of birding from time to time. And so while I carry on, let's send you back to Ali and see whether she's been doing birding or what she's been up to this afternoon.
For the lucky beans, but we haven't been that lucky just yet. So there's another road where I remember I saw them when I went trekking with Herbie one morning. So I'm hoping that if we get that way, we'll be able to see a few lucky beans, and if not, then well, at least we've spent our afternoon trying to see them. Now it is a little bit on the quiet side this afternoon, but hopefully we'll get lucky with something later on. I'm not sure. Debbie, I've seen lucky beans normally grow undisturbed in disturbed areas. So either areas that seem a little bit patchy, a little bit barren of grass and so on. So it's normally a creeper. Now there's a variety of things that we refer to as lucky beans, and I cannot remember the scientific name of the lucky beans that I'm referring to. So apologies about that. Hopefully it'll come back to mind, or if not, I can check on my book later and just let you know. I might actually have it in my flower book here. Let me see very quickly. Now, this particular lucky beans, I was laughing, and I always laugh at this ones because they are, I don't know why they're called lucky beans, obviously because they are believed to bring luck, but they are so poisonous that if you eat them, you can almost die straight away. Now, let me see quickly if I can find them on the book. There are a lot of grasses on this book, but I think no lucky beans. No, definitely not here, so I will have to check somewhere else for the... Ah, there we go. Abrus pericatorius. So this is what I'm after this afternoon. The lucky beans. Now, as I was saying earlier, is a climber, and it just moves all over. And when it opens up, this is what it looks like. So I'm looking for something that looks like that. Pardon me? Sorry, I have problems with straight lines. No problem. There we go. Okay, just for the reflection. So that's what I'm after this afternoon. And as I was saying earlier, this is a very deadly, beautiful plant. If you eat the red, obviously that is not ideal, because then if you ingest too many of them, then you might actually die from them. So I normally laugh because when I was doing my training, then one of my trainers, his name is Sylvester, and he's one of the most renowned trackers in the area. Now, he always used to laugh at me. He thought that I was hilarious. I'm sure he thought that I was completely crazy at some times. And then I think I was trying to do my first walk or my first drive or something along those lines, and he came up with the lucky beans, and he was like, take them, you will need them. So after that, the lucky beans have always been, or have had, a very special place in my heart, and they have brought me luck every time that I have found them. So I cannot say that Sylvester's or that Sly, as he's known, Sly's advised was wrong, but we are looking for them because, again, the first time he gave them to me, that same afternoon, we found one of our very first leopards. So I am hoping that we can carry on building up the tradition of finding lucky beans and then successfully leopards, but we'll see. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there's one particular spot that I want to go and check, so hopefully we'll be able to see them there. That is the idea behind the lucky beans. Caitlin, there are a few mahoganies around the Sabi sand, so we have, I would say, the most common one, the one that I've seen the most is the Natal mahogany that produces actually pods very similar to the ones of the lucky beans, but the ones of the mahogany are much larger than this particular ones that I'm after. These ones that I'm after, the pods are probably about this big. The mahogany ones are almost the size of a pea. Let's go down this road, see what's around here. So there are a few, but it's almost, they seem to prefer areas closer to rivers or areas where there's more accessibility to water, almost, I would say. Those are the areas where I found them. But yes, we do get them in the Sabi, and there are a few different species of one, but I've seen most the Natal mahogany around this area. Also very beautiful ones. What's the name of that one? I think it's even called the Zambezi mahogany. There's one that grows along Chobe in Zimbabwe that's also very similar, very beautiful, and of course produces beans that are very similar to the lucky beans that we're after this afternoon. But I haven't seen my first one around, Djuma. I don't think there is one. And if there is, then I haven't seen it just yet. There are some surprise trees in the blocks in the middle of areas, and now that we've had such a lush and such a rainy season, I've actually enjoyed picking up spots where there are certain trees that I hadn't realized were there. So I've picked up on a lot of more brown ivories and just ivories in general that I hadn't seen before. Alright, it seems like Tristan has reached his destination, so let's go over to him and find out if Tingana's still around.
I have indeed. I've finally reached our destination. It's taken me a while this afternoon to get here, but it's how things are. I'm a little bit all over the show sometimes, and so it's taken me a bit of time to get here. So far, no sign of Tingana. No one's seen any tracks yet. We'll have to try and go and find out where he was last left and then go and follow from there. But we do have a young Ellie bull, which is par for the course on the open areas of Chitwa these days. There's lots of food for them, and so they spend a lot of time here. There's a little fork-tailed drongo also flying about, following the Ellie, which is quite nice. So this young Ellie bull is probably come in because the big Ellie bulls are slowly but surely starting to disappear now. We're starting to see big Ellie bulls kind of moving off and youngsters arriving. But Chitwa Dam is looking rather splendid given the overcast conditions. Not nearly as windy as I'm sure it was yesterday afternoon when poor Ferg and Ali were trying to survive the windy weather in this area. It seems as though it's a little bit more kind of calm this afternoon, and the wind is dropping more and more, which is great news. The more the wind drops, the better it's going to be. And so there's a few hippos lounging about, which are taking it very easy as you would think they would. There's another one over there where it's just ears sticking out by the looks of things. Yes. No, are those just the eyes? The ears are folded under, which is quite strange. It's just the eyes and little nostrils sticking out, little whiskered nostrils. And there's a little baby. Hello. I wonder if that's Boo. Hello, little one. But back under it goes again. But that is as low in the water as a hippo could ever lie. I don't think it could be any more submerged than that. But its nose is just above water that it can still breathe, which is pretty cool. So funny to see them when they sit like that. There's another one that's popping out. And another one. It's amazing how many are actually here. When you kind of look and you sit for long enough, when you start to see them all popping up, you realize there's a lot more than you actually think. There we go. Beautiful view around. What else have we got here, Vildi? We've got some birds. There's a few little weavers that are bouncing around. So you can see that nice white eye of the spotted-backed or villaged weaver. So they're very cool. Is it the spotted-backed or village? Yes, it is. I think so. Just going to double check. But it should be. They're the ones that nest here a lot. So very cool to see. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the weavers. It's been a while since I've looked. being struck by lightning. I mean, they might have been, but I haven't ever seen it myself, and you'd probably find that they have. So, like I was saying that just now, that little bird is actually a lesser mast. It's got the white eye, so I don't know why I'm calling it a village weaver. Like I say, I'm a bit all over the place today and struggling with my memory and brain a little bit. So birding has been tough for me this afternoon. Can't seem to remember anything, which I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because it's getting to that sort of time where it's almost time to go on leave and your brain starts to kind of just filter out things and start to become a bit forgetful. I don't know why, it's just the way it is sometimes. There's a egret over there as well, straight over the bank, which is very cool to see. Hello, egrets. Now, that is the great white egret. I always think that sounds so colonial. Great white egret with that posh colonial accent would be very, very cool. But these guys are always around here. Sits on this dead tree. For some reason, it absolutely loves that particular tree, and it hangs about there and then flies to the edges of the dam, hunts, and then goes back to the tree itself. At one point I thought maybe it was nesting on that broken nesting material that you see, but it doesn't seem to actually be ever sitting on anything. Now I wonder if it's hunting from there. You see it's kind of darting its head. You'd imagine it would be quite difficult to get its neck into the water from there, and that it might topple over into the water. Seems a very precarious place to be hunting. But it certainly looks like it's interested in something. There we go. Are you going to go for something? Let's see. Maybe it is hunting some of the fish that are congregating around that structure. Often fish will congregate around structure and move around. Did the fish just jump behind it there, Viam? Did you see that? Look, there's a little fish that looked like it jumped behind the egret. Maybe if somebody can play that back, you might get lucky and actually see it flopping out of the water. A tiny little one. From, like I say, behind where its legs are, there was a little one that kind of plopped out the water. But it definitely seems like it's watching something. There we go. You see, it looks like it's going to go. Oh, no. So it's obviously got a technique. It's the bend the knees and get nice and low, and then use that long S-shaped neck to strike forward into the water and then grab those fish. So it's definitely watching something moving around in that area. And it obviously uses this tree as a hunting platform. And it's out of the way of the crocodile, so a little bit more safe than being wading in sort of waist deep. Kristen, you say, look at those long toes. They are long, aren't they? Now, they need long toes because they spend a lot of time wading around, and there's a lot of places where the mud is very soft under the water surface, and so long toes help just to distribute the weight a little bit so that they don't sink in. They're able to then move around quite easily without getting sucked into those wet sections like the heavier set animals, something like an antelope with a small pointy hoof. They get kind of into the mud and it becomes hard for them to move around, whereas this guy, are you going to go again? Did you see how lightning fast it was just now when it struck out? It didn't get anything, but it's amazing how fast it is. Let's see if it's going to go down again. It's always when you see the knees bending, you can kind of know that it's about to strike out. But how cool is this? It's amazing just to watch birds that hunt like this. Herons, egrets, they're one of my favorite species to watch going about their hunting business. So much patience is shown, and then the lightning reflex that they've got in able to find food is absolutely amazing. One of the best animals actually to watch hunting in watery areas like this is a bird called a yellow-billed woodstock. Now, the yellow-billed woodstocks don't see them so much here in this area, but if you go to a dam very close to a camp in Kruger National Park called Sunset Dam. Now, Sunset Dam is this very cool place, and there's often hundreds of yellow-billed woodstocks there, and they cruise around the shallows, and they absolutely hammer fish that come around the edges. It's amazing to watch it. I love watching those guys fishing, and you find them sometimes catching big fish, and the frequency in which they catch fish is absolutely amazing. Now, we've also got another bird talking about catching fish, which is sitting over there. VM already knows exactly what I'm talking about. There is our African fish eagle that is sitting patiently watching over the water. Now, that bird hasn't eaten. You can see its crop is not swollen or full, so I think it's a situation where that bird is probably looking out for any signs of prey that could be coming towards the surface that it might be able to swoop down and then sink those talons into and carry off. Now, the fish eagles here will target rather large prey items. They'll go after big fish here. I've seen some that are so big that they actually have to swim to the bank and try and get to the bank by swimming rather than actually flying out. And so these massive catfish get hauled out. Now, Ravi, you're asking, do we have any other birds in this area that are restricted to the ground and do not have their pilot's license, like ostriches? Just trying to think if there are any. Not that I can think of, actually. Not in the Sabi Sands, at least. All of the rest of the birds in this area are able to fly. Yes, all of them, as far as I know. I can't think of any ground birds. A lot of the other ground birds that we have out here, so things like sandgrass, francolins, guinea fowl, that move a lot on the ground, are all capable of flying. The ostrich is the only one that's too heavy to fly out here, and that doesn't actually fly. There are some others that are very lazy flyers and don't fly very well at all, so something like a Kori bustard or even any of the Korans. They're not great flyers, and it's labored flying that happens, but they can fly. So it's only the ostrich that I know of in this area that is completely grounded at all times. Good. What else is there, Viam? There's the little baby waterbuck also in that area. That's quite nice. They're still around. So Tingana didn't find either of the two babies. The two fluffy little ones are still out and about, and Ali also didn't steal one of them, which is also good news, because at one point yesterday I was convinced I was going to come home and find a fluffy waterbuck roaming around the gardens of Inga's. But luckily they have been left to themselves and they are still moving around. And if you want to know how big that waterbuck is, you can look at the size of that little blacksmith lapwing. It gives you a good indication of just how little those babies are when they sit down. So lapwings are almost the same size as their heads. They're absolutely tiny little things. And Mom looks quite content. She's licking her chops, eyes closed, squinting. Very quizzical look, doesn't she? She's almost like, what are you guys doing down there? And then the little baby's having a bit of a nap. Very cool to see. They are seriously cute little waterbuck babies. And Ali was alluding to the fact that they would be such an awesome little pet. And I think so too, other than the fact of having so many ticks, which would be a problem for me. But I still think they're very cute. Anyway, we're going to still meander about Chitwa Dam. There's lots of little things to look at here. There's always stuff to be seen. And so while we explore, let's send you back across to Ali and see what she's been up to and where she's exploring so far this afternoon.
I would really never steal a baby nothing from their mother. I think Tristan should know better. And it is funny because there are stories of me when I was little of actually having panic attacks if something didn't have its mom close by. My aunt and my mom and my grandma always laugh at me because apparently when I was little, and I do remember this book, but clearly I don't remember this drama, I had a book of a tiny little chicken that gets lost in the farm and goes around the whole where it's lost. It finds the cat. Else is in a farm. The first time they read this book to me, crying for where was the mom of the chicken? Like, where had it left it? And it was horrible. So I would never steal anyone's baby. Right. But while I give Tristan trouble for this, let's head back to him. It seems like he is actually maybe considering it himself.
Well, I didn't copy what Ali was saying, but anyway, I haven't gotten very far. I've all done about 50 meters because it seems as though between the tech issues I'm destined to do a solo drive at this stage, which is okay, I suppose. It's not the worst. It just makes it a little difficult to follow up on things, but it's okay. It won't be the first time or the last that we do solo efforts out here. It does happen from time to time. Now, I did see a crocodile here somewhere. It was cruising along the bank. Where have you got birds on the other side there? Yeah? Oh, you do. You have a whole bunch of swallows. Are those barn swallows? I can't see nicely. Sitting still for a change. Yes, very much so. They are sitting dead still, which is quite nice. I'm trying to see them with binoculars, but they all look like young birds. You can see lots of white plumage on them. So I wonder if these are young barn swallows. They look like young barn swallows. Not the wire tails, they don't have the wire kind of thin streamer that comes out. So it looks like a whole bunch of barn swallows that are in this area. Now I just want to double check with them. Like I say, my birding brain is nowhere at the moment. I don't know why. I'm just struggling today to remember things. Leave brain is on me already. But too soon though. I've got a long way still to go until leave, so can back off for a while I have to get back into the birding side of things. Where are the swallows? Come on, swallows. I know you're around here somewhere. There's swifts. Don't want swifts, we want swallows. Very cool there. You can see still some inclement weather that is coming along and heading in our direction. So excuse me while I just look through my book quickly. 296. I was in the right place. I don't know why I was paging past them. There we go. So I want to just double check something quickly. South African cliff swallows, grey rumped, no. Where are you, swallows? Red-breasted, lesser striped. Ah, there we go. Cool. Right, so this is the swallows that basically we're looking at the moment. There you can see are a number of swallows that look very similar. The swallow that we're looking at the moment is the barn swallow. It's most definitely the barn swallow. It's got that red little area underneath the beak, and so that is what we are seeing on that particular individual. Now, the interesting part about this is that they don't actually breed in this area, which is interesting to me because there's a number of young birds in there, so maybe it's their first migratory route that they've taken. And then the other one that we see here is the wild-tailed swallow, which has got this little red cap on top, but no red coming down. It's got the little white throat, and then these long little streamers that I was talking about. That's where it gets its kind of name from, the little wire streamers that come down. The other bird that you could potentially get it confused with is this white-throated swallow, but these white-throated swallows we don't see here, not in the Sabi Sands anyway. I've never seen them here in the Sabi Sands, and so it's not that individual. So it's just young barn swallows that are around, and you can see the non-breeding one is not quite as bright. There they all are sitting back on top. And so I think some of them are just in their non-breeding phases. Difficult to say though. A lot of them have kind of got their backs to us. There was definitely an adult in there that looked like it. Now some of those are actually, I think, of a different species. It's so far away, and on these little monitors it's difficult to actually get any indication of coloration. No, is there white under those beaks? I can't see. Monique in London, you say you love swallows. The swallows are epic little birds, aren't they? They're amazing creatures. The way that they're able to fly around with such speed, they absolutely are amazing. I love swallows as well. I think they're very cool. And do you know that they are one of the few birds that have a special little mechanism in their brain? Well, mechanism is probably the wrong word, but a special organ, if you want to call it that, in their brain, which is almost like a little crystal, and that little crystal helps for them to pick up magnetic fields, and that's how they orientate themselves, by flying. And so barn swallows particularly will gather in Namibia before they start heading back to Europe. They used to be known as European swallows, and so they go back to Europe to go and breed for the summer, the European summer, and they'll gather in Namibia, and then once they take off from there, they do not land again until they get into Europe, which is pretty insane. They even sleep on the wing, feed on the wing, and move on the wing, which is absolutely amazing to me. I think it's one of the most incredible things that a bird of that size is able to fly that far without stopping. There is another one of our really pretty birds, which is a little bee-eater. And it is little, but it's also called a little bee-eater. And these guys hang around Chitwa Dam quite regularly. They use these little fallen over trees or brush-packed trees to be able to do some hunting and to be able to kind of hawk down from here and grab little insects, and then back they go into that area. So they're very cool little birds. I really enjoy these little bee-eaters and provide a bit of color for us, even in our winter months, because they are around in winter as well as summer, which is quite nice. A lot of our bee-eater species unfortunately disappear in the winter months. And actually, talking about bee-eaters, it's been a really strange year for the southern carmine bee-eater. So for those of you who don't know what a southern carmine bee-eater is, it is a very beautiful bird that we get here. There we go. So it's this one over here, this top one. It's this very crimson colored with blue all over it. These guys have been nowhere to be seen over the course of this summer. I don't think I've gotten one on camera since I've been, this summer, which is very, very strange. Generally you see them quite regularly, and so I wonder if it's because of the dry sort of summer that we've had, and that's why the carmines just didn't come that far. Now the crocodile, I've just seen it swimming away from us. It's gliding through the water. There you can see it disturbing the water surface. So there goes a massive crocodile. You can see, look at that big muscular tail swimming along, wide back and super big head that is going along. So that can only be Vlad that is swimming across the dam, and I think it was hunting up against the shoreline, but because we've parked here, maybe it just lost its nerve in hunting and is now just cruising slowly away from us and ever so gently just swimming with that tail. Isn't that cool? It's amazing to see those scales just kind of gliding through the water. And I know that the Mara's got some insanely big crocodiles, but when you see this crocodile, it is not far off. It is a big individual as well. And look at the width of that back. Now, we're only seeing a small portion of that back gliding through the water, but it is massive, massive back that you see there. So absolutely amazing to see. It's really cool to have these guys around. I thoroughly enjoy having them and seeing them in this area. Now, it is that time of the afternoon where we are almost about to welcome school drive, so we'll probably set ourselves up to be able to welcome them from the dam fairly shortly, and they will be joining us, which will be quite nice to have them. Now, I need to remember which schools are joining us, so I'm just going to quickly check. Southside and Glenwood, I believe. Good, right, so we are going to welcome our schools now, which will be very, very good. So to Southside, who has just joined us this afternoon, very warm welcome. I hope that you're going to have the best time with us this afternoon. Hopefully we'll be able to find you lots of interesting animals. We are on the search for a leopard, so hopefully we will be able to find that for all of you this afternoon. Now, you must remember that this is interactive and we are live in South Africa, so that means that you can ask lots of questions. Remember, just give them to your teacher and your teacher will send them through to us, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. Now, I'm sitting down on a big waterhole at the moment, which has got lots of interesting animals. So we don't just have birds at this waterhole and fish. We've got amazing animals that are sitting here too. So the first most obvious animal that we've got is a whole bunch of big hippos that are lounging about in the water, and this is what hippos do all day. They spend the sunny part of the day in the water. Even though we haven't had much sun, this is where they like to spend the day, and the reason is because they lack fur and their bodies get burnt and dehydrated very, very quickly. And so what that means is that they dry out, and it's like if you don't drink a lot of water and you spend time in the sun, you're going to get sunburnt and you're going to get a headache from being dehydrated, which means you're losing water, and your body needs water. Your body is made up of mostly water, so it needs it. And so hippos spend their time in the water, which keeps their skin nice and covered, and so that they don't have to worry about getting their skin drying out. And they also are able to stay nice and cool in the hot African sun. Even though today is a very cool day, we haven't had too much sun the last 2 days, they can then get out of the sun when the sun is around, and it's just a lot more comfortable for them to spend a lot of time in the water like this. So you'll find lots of hippos in this dam, and they'll sit here, and then at night they're going to start moving out and going to find lots of food. And what they eat is not fish, and they do not eat in the dam itself. What they're eating is the grasses that are around this area. So they come out and they're like big lawnmowers, and they'll walk out with these massive jaws, and they literally just break off big chunks of grass and swallow them. So they're big bulk grazers, which is pretty amazing to see them kind of going. Can you hear that? Let's see if they'll call again. So they were snorting. Now sometimes if one does it, the rest all start doing it. But there's a big male coming now towards a female. Can you hear them? There's one that's also yawning in the background. So there's lots and lots of snorting, and that's how they talk to each other. It sounds like laughing, doesn't it? But it's how they actually talk to one another. It's how they communicate to say, well, everybody's here, everything in the pod is fine, there's no need to worry, or where every member of the pod is. So that's a big male. You can see the size of him in comparison to some of the females that are around, and there'll be one big dominant male in this whole group. There will be young males, but they won't be dominant, which means that they won't control what's going on at this dam, and they won't look after the females. So he'll be the big daddy that will keep everybody nice and safe, and if another big male comes in, he'll get chased away and pushed into another area. Right, now I'm going to sit here for a while longer. There's lots of other animals that are around, and so while I do that, I'm going to send you across to my friend Byron, who has got a very tall creature to show all of you.
Well, I do. And what a nice little start to the school drive with all the hippo that Tristan had and all those interesting animals around the water. But we've got a big giraffe. And this is a female. She seems to be by herself. I don't see any others around at the moment. And she's enjoying all the green vegetation. And for the school drive, my name is Byron, and with me on camera is Senzo this afternoon. It's great to have all of you with us. So don't forget, send us your questions. I'm sure Tristan already told you. But I'm glad we are able to show you a giraffe. I haven't seen a giraffe for a few days, and they move around a lot through the areas, and at times they just they can disappear. I think there's so much food and water around at the moment. And as I was saying, I'm surprised this giraffe is alone. But she's not alone. There's another giraffe. It's hiding in the bush. I'm going to wait for it to come out, and then maybe we'll be able to show it to you. And then I also saw an elephant that was possibly moving this way. There's a little bit of water in front of us. I'm hoping that elephant comes through. I can't see it at the moment also. I mean, you must know how thick the bush is at the moment if a big elephant can hide away there. But luckily we've got this beautiful view of the giraffe. And how I know it's a female, some of you might have been wondering that, but look at those little horns on the head, and they're known as ossicones. And those little ossicones, the females, theirs are quite thin. And they've got little black tufts of hair on top. And you could see that quite clearly earlier, but now she's disappearing. She's just hiding through there. So that's a female. And then, to my left, we've got a surprise, another male, or a male rather, that's come through. Now I can show you what the male looks like, and show you the difference with the horns, or the ossicones. I have a look over there. Now that is a big male. Now can you see his horns are really thick and he's bald on top. So the males are bald and the females have little tufts of hair right on top of those horns. You can see those beautiful red-billed oxpeckers sitting on the neck, picking off ticks off of the giraffe. So they help the giraffe a lot, those little birds. Red-billed oxpeckers. Beautiful birds. Now, Gordon, the giraffe don't necessarily have a strict social structure or social hierarchy. So within a group of giraffe, you may find a number of females together with their calves. That's generally a group of giraffe. And then at times you could also just find a group of males together. You can also find females and males together, but there's not necessarily a hierarchy. However, when the males are looking to mate with the females, the dominant males, the big dominant males, will fight each other, and the winner will be able to mate with the female that is in the area, or females. So they will fight, but within a social group, there's not necessarily a hierarchy. There's no need for that until it comes time when the male wants to mate with the females. Then they will fight, and the victor will be able to mate. Now, I think we're going to see something very special here. I think this giraffe's going to drink. So let's have a look. See, that's the little water hole. Now, it is really amazing to see a giraffe drink, and I'll show you why in a minute. You can imagine they've got a long way to get down to the water, so they've got to spread their legs. I think this giraffe is just being very cautious, but you see which direction that male is looking in? Now the reason he's looking that way is because that's where the elephant was. So he won't be worried about the elephant, but he just wants to make sure what it is. Oh no, is the giraffe not going to drink for us? Michelle, you say giraffes are your favorite. They are wonderful, wonderful animals. Okay, here we go. going to keep quiet because you can see this male is a little bit nervous. He keeps looking around, and the reason for that is they are vulnerable when they drink. With their long necks down and their heads down, it's easy for a predator to maybe come out and surprise the giraffe. Oh no, it's not interested in drinking. That's a pity. No, there could be a few reasons because of that, but I think at the moment we've had a lot of rain, so the vegetation is very lush and green. So the giraffe also probably gets moisture from all the vegetation that it's feeding on, but there's a lot of water around. So maybe this giraffe drank earlier. It's also not hot today. It's a very cool summer's day, as we've had overcast, cloudy weather. So the chance, maybe it's just not necessary for the giraffe to drink. I'm wondering where that elephant disappeared to. But there you can see how overcast and gloomy the day is. But it is very nice because it can get very hot here at times. Our summer temperatures can get up to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really, really hot. Maybe even a bit more. Jason, the social gathering or a collective noun for giraffe, there are two that are used a lot. One is a tower of giraffe, and you can understand why. And the other one, and the one that I use a lot, is a journey of giraffe. So a journey of giraffe or a tower. Now they say that if the giraffe are standing in an area feeding and they're standing still, it's known as a tower, and if they're moving, it's called a journey. But both are acceptable. You can use both at any stage. You can see the giraffe now busy feeding. Now what I find fascinating is they've got really tough tongues and lips, because that tree that giraffe is feeding on has got such sharp thorns on it, but it's able to strip the leaves right off without the thorns bothering it. Their tongues are very tough, almost rubber-like, to put up with those sharp thorns from the trees, because all the really tasty trees out here have got thorns on them to protect them. Wasn't that nice? I think that male is possibly following the female because he's going exactly the way she went.